Now, 33 new office buildings are set to be delivered in Dublin this year, and 77% of them are pre-let already. That's according to estate agent Savills, who also say that of the space due to be delivered next year, over 50% is pre-let. So, have rumours of the office's demise been greatly exaggerated? Let's find out with Roland O'Connell, who is head of offices at Savills. Morning, Roland.
Morning, Gavin.
First thing I want to ask you about is this year's performance. You say it's up 35% versus last year in terms of new space being delivered. But obviously last year is a flattering year to be compared with. I would presume the amount of new office space delivered this year will still be down on 2019.
It is slightly, but the important thing is really the level this year. We've had enormous difficulties with the closure of building sites due to the COVID lockdowns. And so that's delayed the construction of a lot of buildings and indeed pushed completions from this year into 2022. So were it not for the COVID lockdowns, we would have actually seen a significantly higher level of completions this year.
There's been a lot of speculation, obviously, about what might happen with COVID and how much working from home would stick. I want to ask you this. Is there any evidence you have identified that the amount of office space being demanded now is less than it would have been if there had never been a pandemic?
Oh, yeah. It's definitely less at this moment in time. However, our expectation is that as the pandemic eases and normality returns, that demand for office space will also return to normal levels. And indeed, we're beginning to see that. We track demand within the Dublin office market, and in Q1 2020, the demand for space was about 5.4 million square feet. So that's all the people who are looking for office space. Doesn't mean necessarily all of those people will move, but that's how many people have active requirements in the market. That dropped from 5.4 million at the beginning of 2020 to 3.4 million at the end of 2020. But now in quarter 2 2021, that active demand is back up to 4.74 million square feet. So we can see a very significant rebound in demand. And we're also beginning to see the number of deals turn around as well. The first quarter of this year was incredibly low, about 2,000 square metres or so. The quarter just finished, we're up to 10,000 square metres. And more importantly, there's about 100,000 square metres of deals agreed, which are in the legal process to be signed. So you can see from those figures that we're already beginning to work our way back towards normality.
Yeah, and look, it's anecdotal, of course. I presume you're talking to people about these trends all the time, but you know, there was this idea that everyone wanted flexibility and we'd move to this hybrid approach, etc. And that's probably true, that people probably will want flexibility, but I think, Roland, there's an awful lot of people at this stage who are just thinking, God, I really want to get back to the office.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And look, the way in which we use offices changes all the time, and probably COVID will bring an acceleration of some of those changes. But we've done a lot of research on this, and indeed our colleagues have researched it across Europe. So what they're finding is that right across European offices, that there's a strong preference amongst the 18 to 24-year-olds and 25 to 34-year-olds to get back to the office. Only less than 10% of those want to work remotely. Now, as you get up to maybe the 55-year-old plus, over 30% of those would like to work remotely. But definitely in the younger brigade, there's a real anxiety to get back to work. And we found even in our own case that more people within our employment want to get back into the office than we can accommodate at the moment. So we're hearing that right across the board. We've heard that in the first lockdown there was a novelty, there was a good weather, there was the curiosity about it, and people said this is great. But by the time we got through our Irish winter, I think that novelty had fully worn off, and people miss the social aspects of the office. And perversely, some people, I assume those with shorter commutes, miss the commute, that element in the morning when you're preparing for work and then unwinding for work as you're heading home. And there's a very definite cut-off between home life and work life, whereas when we're all locked down at home, it's harder to make that distinction.
Yeah, well, I can understand people might miss the commute in terms of you're sitting on the bus or the train or whatever. Sometimes it's nice to pop the headphones in and forget about everything else. Thanks very much for that, Roland. We'll leave it there. That's Roland O'Connell, who is head of offices at Savills. Back in just a moment.